Before I get started with this story, one of my subscribers have reached out to me in the comment section of the video that I did about Damari Perry. I'm trying to make sure I get their name. Neek Amalim, and I think I probably pronounced that wrong, but I know that it's Queen spelled backwards. I'll just put it like that. And they were saying, Taurean, can you discuss the 11 black children that were locked in cages by this white couple who adopted them and treated them like animals, but only served 2 years in prison for it? This was on Dr. Phil's show about 2 weeks ago. Two of the survivors, who are the sister and brother, tell the story, how the story unfolds. It's this horrific treatment, but the two couples only get a slap on the wrist. So this is my first time actually hearing about this story. And I'm thinking that, they said it was on Dr. Phil 2 weeks ago, but they didn't really talk about it like that. And I was like, oh, so this must have recent. Oh no. We had to reach back all the way to 2005 where this thing started to unravel itself. I think it started before then, like around 2003. But these two right here, whose name are Michael and Sharon Gravel, were the ones who had 11 black children who were special needs that they adopted, and they had them in cages. This is probably one of the worst stories that you will probably hear ever. And it's a lot of information about it because, like I said, it stems all the way back to 2003. They got him in 2005. They said they only got 2 years in prison. And there were multiple articles written about it. I've seen articles that were written as far as 2010 that got an update to 2019. Then now apparently two of the survivors went on Dr. Phil a couple weeks ago, which of course would have been either the end of 2021, I guess, if you can put it like that. But they said they had them locked in cages. But I did find a news clip from 5 years ago that's coming from this YouTube channel called Fox 8 News Cleveland, where one of the one of the individuals who was a child kept in a cage actually spoke out. I think probably for the first time. I was trying to see if I could find something a little bit more recent than 5 years, but I think that I don't know if there's that much as far as news clips because a lot of them tend to be old, but we'll go with what we have. And usually on my channel, I don't like to reach back like that, but this was a story that I felt needed to be talked about. And I'm sure some of you who live in the Ohio area probably most likely have heard about this story. I mean, look at these two right here. They look evil. But I'm going to go ahead and play this audio.
I just thought it was all a dream. I thought I was not really going through this.
18-year-old Simon Bell says his first memory as a child was being kept in a cage, along with 10 other special needs children in the Huron County home of their foster parents, Michael and Sharon Gravel.
I'm young. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Is this right?
Simon and his brother and sister were placed in the Gravels' home after their mother abandoned them, and their father was sent to prison.
Do I have a mom? Do I have a dad? Are these really my parents?
The Gravels told Simon and the other children that they were holding them in the cages to prevent them from hurting themselves or each other.
This is for our protection. But this is something that an animal would be living in.
The senior at Camp McKinley High School says he has flashbacks to those dark days. Every time he sees wood painted in the way the Gravels decorated the cages, or hears alarms like the ones placed on the doors to the cages. When he goes to church, he is reminded of how the Gravels encouraged the children to pray.
I think it was really twisted because them showing us how to pray, but they're putting us through hell.
The nightmare ended in 2005 after a caseworker demanded to see the children. And when the Gravels refused, she returned with the police.
I remember them putting me in a van. I remember them putting me in a van and taking me away from there.
I am not this guilty criminal who took his children, as the state wants you to believe, locked them in cages.
Michael and Sharon Gravel were convicted in 2007 of charges that included child endangering and child abuse. They each served 2 years in prison.
They locked us up for 2 years. They get locked up for 2 years. No. They nearly almost killed us.
Lawsuits filed against child welfare agencies for placing the children in the Gravel home were settled out of court for several $1 million. But Simon Bell says he's having trouble getting access to his share of the funds. A lawyer who serves as Simon's trustee says the money must be used for any of his special needs not covered by government benefits. It must be approved by a judge. Bell says as an adult, he should have the right to choose how he spends the money. Among other things, he wants to enroll at the University of Akron next fall.
Picture one of them being like me. Picture one of them sleeping in a cage with nothing. You're just not a human being, you're an animal.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. And that's the entire clip right there. I thought that there was going to be more to that, but wow, that's crazy. That's wild. And this is why a lot of people do not believe that PC should have the right to adopt black children. When he sat up there, when he sat up there and said that they came over and let child services came over to their home to investigate, and she came with the police, and they were getting ready to like pack the kids up and put them in the car or whatever and leave, I immediately thought of Devontae Hart. This reminds me this is like Devontae Hart before Devontae Hart. Like, they had them in cages. You know, as a matter of fact, let me pause this right quick so you can see a picture of what these cages look like. There's a picture. That's a picture of what they look like. That's one of them, but they all look like that. That looks like something you would put, like he said, an animal in. It looks like one of those cages that you would see on a farm. You know how like a chicken coop cage? That's what this looks like. That's what they had children, human beings, sleeping in. Not a room, not a bed, in a cage. Those two demonic things that you just saw on your screen is what they had human beings sleeping in. And all of those children were black. Every last one, and there's 11 of them. All of them were black. And all they got was 2 measly years in prison. 2, which means they're out now. They're out of jail now. Because the clip that you heard was from 5 years ago, so that was back in 2016. And I can't really find much of anything more recent than that. I know that they said they was on Dr. Phil recently, but I cannot for some reason I'm trying to find, or I can't find the clips. But if I do, I'll insert them in here. Okay, so I had to like go and do some more searching, and this guy right here plays an intricate role to the story because he's the guy that actually was able to, I guess you can say, free those kids from bondage or from being in them cages. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip. Now this is from 2017, and as you can see, you see the Dr. Phil logo right there at the bottom. So he did appear on Dr. Phil, and I think around the same time some of the kids, or who were kids at the time, was on the show, and I believe that they actually met him for the first time on this show. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this audio right here, and you're gonna see the role that he played in this.
One day I was sent to meet Michael and Sharon Gravel. The Gravels were looking for someone to be there on either Saturday or Sunday most of the day so they could go out as a couple. The only time I ever saw the kids was when I first came into the house. Sharon sternly instructed all the children to go outside. A little later, one of the boys came to the screen door crying, holding himself. Sharon said, "No, you little monkey, you should have gone to the bathroom before you went outside." He came in the house and went to the bathroom, and when he was done, he came out and she said, "Go upstairs and lock yourself in your cage until tomorrow afternoon." That's the first time I ever heard the word cage. Sharon referred to all the 11 children as monkeys. I thought that it was racist. I was appalled. Michael looked me right dead in the eyes and said, I consider myself to be Moses, leading these children to the promised land. Michael explained to me outside that sometimes the kids try to get out of their cages, and he pointed at the speakers that were on the outside of the house. He told me the doors on the cages were hooked up to the sirens so that they would know when they were trying to get out. He told me a good way to look at the kids to see if they are trying to get out is their fingers will be cut from trying to pry the chicken wire away from the wood. When Michael said that to me, I thought these children are being raised by monsters. I felt that they were treating these kids as less than animals. I never saw the cages that day, but after Michael and Sharon both mentioned and described them to me, I knew what was going on. Knowing how these children are being abused in this house, it was very hard for me to leave. I got in my car and I was driving away from those kids, and I had to pull over the side of the road, and I literally sobbed for their welfare. I immediately told my bosses at the caregiving company what I had witnessed. I got called into a meeting with Child Protective Services. They had me write down everything I saw and everything I witnessed. Unfortunately, nothing happened. There was absolute silence. I never stopped thinking about those kids. 3 years passed before I got a call from Child Protective Services. The social worker found the notes that I had written at the meeting that we had had 3 years prior, and the next time I knew anything at all, Michael and Sharon had been arrested. Sharon and Michael received 2 years behind bars. I wish that they would have been put away for life. I don't personally know the kids. I don't think they know who I am. But what I want them to know is I love each and every one of them, and I'm happy if they're happy.
Okay, so y'all just heard that clip right there, and it's coming from this individual right here. I'm not exactly sure what his name is, because I wouldn't know exactly where to search to find what his name is. But if I do, I will insert it somewhere in this video, or I might pin it at the top of the comment section, and we can go from there. All right, so I had to like pause it again and try to find this man's name, but his name is Carlisle. I'm not sure what his last name is. So you have this man right here who literally is the reason why those kids are out of the cages today. Well, they're grown now, but that's just crazy. This guy went and he actually saw and heard for himself what was going on with them cages and what those two monsters were doing to those kids while they were in them cages. They said they attached an alarm to the cages, so if they knew they was getting out, the alarm would go off, and they knew that they would have to go and put them back in. They said they could tell that they were trying to get out because they would cut themselves on their hands from the wiring, and they said from chicken wiring. Like I said, it reminded me of a chicken coop, like on a farm. And what's so disturbing about this whole thing is that he went to CPS, Child Protective Services, and they told him to write down an account of everything that you heard and whatever you saw at that house. And he said it took them 3 years for them to actually act on it. This reminds me again of Devontae Hart. Again, that's why CPS, when it comes to black kids or black children, they drag their feet every single time. It's like every time there is a case involving CPS, there is always going to be them dragging their feet all of the time when it comes to situations such as these. All the time. It never fails. I think every story that I've done that had to have CPS involved with a black child, it was always too late by the time they got there. But thankfully, it wasn't too late for these kids. But definitely a huge shout out to this guy right here. Now, there's one more piece that I wanted to throw in here as well, and I probably should have put that in here before this one, but that's okay. I'm gonna put it in here regardless. All right, so this is the last little clip that I wanted to put in here. Like I said, I wish I would have put this in here before the previous one. But what I'll probably do is with this story, because there's so many clips and the stuff in here that I can't, that is so much. What I'll do is I'll go and find all of the clips and I'll put them in the description, and then you can go and watch them for yourselves, because there's more to it as well. There's even a clip in here where this young lady right here and the one that you heard in the beginning actually reunited after like 10 years. But I'm not going to lay that one, because that one's like a 4-minute clip, and I'm not going to put that in there. But I'll just find all the clips when they were on Dr. Phil and then put them in here, and you can go and watch it for yourself if you can bear to watch it. But that's fine. But this last clip that I wanted to talk about is another teen, and she's basically giving her account of what she went through when she was in the house. And by the way, the guy that you heard from in the beginning, the young black guy that you heard from in the beginning when he was talking, when I had those two monsters pictures up there, him and her were the ones that, or the two teens the two that went to Dr. Phil, and they're the only ones that they've talked to out of the 11 that were in that house.
I was the very first child adopted by Michael and Sharon when I was a newborn. My experience was very different from the rest of my siblings. Although I was never physically abused, I was emotionally abused by witnessing the abuse. One of my sisters who had Down syndrome, I witnessed my parents shoving a sock down her throat. I just remember feeling scared, a little bit afraid. My brothers and sisters were kept in cages, and I was the only one that slept in a bed. I would even ask my parents if I could sleep in a cage because I wanted to be like the rest of my siblings. I got to leave the house with my mom, Sharon. She would take me with her to Walmart and stuff, out to eat. My siblings would always ask me, "Oh, Abba, you get treated better than us. Why is that?" And I never knew the answer why. I felt really guilty. One day, I think I was about 9 or 10, all these vans arriving at the house. I was getting taken from the only parents that I had. I didn't understand what was going on. I would constantly cry and cry. I'm now starting to realize the magnitude of what really went on in that house. What my mom and dad, Michael and Sharon, did was beyond twisted and sick.
Okay, so you just heard her account. She was the only sibling in the house that did not sleep in a cage. She was actually allowed to sleep in a bed, and I saw the pictures, and it wasn't, trust and believe, it was not better than being in a cage. Like, that room was filthy. Like, she didn't even have any sheets to sleep on. She was sleeping on a bare mattress, and that mattress was filthy. The walls were worn and torn. Like, it's like they were sleeping in the slums. They had them living in the slums. Like, nothing about the life that they were living was good by any measure of the word good or great. Definitely not that. They literally were living in hell and being treated like they were living there as well. This story is so wild to me. And like I told you, I usually don't like to reach back and do stories like this. But since one of my subscribers reached out to me and said that they appeared on Dr. Phil 2 weeks ago, even though I can't find that footage, I'm glad that it was sent to me, because these are the kind of stories that do not make it past a certain media market. But like I said, there's so many more clips along with this, but I don't want to like completely overextend this video, because I think by now y'all pretty much get it. I will say shout out to the guy that saved them. I'm hoping that that they are getting all the type of help that they can, because to endure something like that for so long has to be torturous, especially at a very young age. And it really pisses me off that those two monsters that are doppelganging as human beings actually got only 2 years in prison. They should have gotten way more, like the one at the beginning said. They should have got life for what they did. Because there is no way in hell you could tell me that these two deserve to only have 2 years in prison. Because nothing that they did to these kids warrants 2 years. It doesn't. It's sad. But I'm glad that they all made it out and that they're alive, because unfortunately some, like the Hart family, don't make it. But like I said, this is also something, again, that does not get talked about. It gets heavily overlooked. They had these kids in cages, locked in cages. And I didn't catch what she said, that the one sibling who had Down syndrome, that they put something down her throat. I didn't catch what she said, but all I heard was put down her throat. And that's all I needed to hear. I didn't even want to go back and see what she said, because that's torturous enough. But shout out to my subscriber that sent me this. That way I can get a little bit more insight to the story. These are the kind of story I hate to have to do, but I feel like if you don't talk about them, then there's no light that is being shed upon these type of stories. All I can do is hope that they're doing a whole lot better now. It seems to me like they most likely are, but just knowing that the only two people that they knew as mom and dad are still out there. That's the scary part about it. Like, the fact that they are still around is scary enough. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Like I said, I will insert the other links to this story, so you can go ahead and watch them for yourself if you do so choose. And it's going to be quite a few links because there's a lot to this story to unpack. And on that note, I'll talk to you in the next one.